guys for coming. All of you, it means a lot to us that you probably go to work all day, come home, feed your family dinner, then schlep back out again. We feel like this is a really important night, and we're just glad that you're here. And more importantly, our special guest panel makes this night informative, and they offer a perspective that we just can't. So just so you guys have an idea of what tonight will look like, we always, as a counseling department, want to make your time in front of us worthwhile. We want you to leave having taken something away. So this is just the beginning of what will be the class of 2019's college application cycle. So tonight we consider like the official kickoff. Like we are now here to serve you and your families through this really exciting time. So I'll do a little bit of an introduction just to sort of set the objective for tonight. Then I'm going to turn it over to our other counselors to run the panel. We'll have some time for you to ask some specific follow-up questions, and then a brief summary of what to expect next, and that will be the evening. So tonight, it does mark the official kickoff of our college application season for the class of 2019, but that doesn't mean you guys will leave tonight and start filling out applications for college tomorrow. The hope is that you'll leave tonight with a clearer understanding of what some of our local colleges are looking for in their applicants, some of the great programs that exist at a wide variety of campuses across our great state, and hopefully you'll leave tonight with at least one concrete takeaway. But most importantly, we hope you leave tonight having reflected on how you can work together as a family to make this process less stressful and more enjoyable. Our offices collectively, as counselors, are filled every day with anxious students. We know that they exist at your kitchen tables, they exist in their bedrooms while they're studying, they exist even while they're here at school. They're probably texting or calling, worried about something. But those same students that we see every day are also thoughtful, and they're curious, and they're hopeful, and they're searching to find a path that leads to a place of joy, purpose, acceptance, value. Some of us were still on that path, even though we graduated high school a long, long time ago. But we need to keep an open mind and an open heart to make, because when we do, we can make some stops at some very meaningful spaces along the way, spaces we didn't even envision for ourselves when we began. So this is your counseling department. Mrs. Belsky, L through R, and Mrs. Ty, S through Z, and I'm Mrs. Weiss, E through K. But change is always in the air. And Mr. Beebe, he's moved along his path. And Mrs. Dixon, who is down front, last week in the classroom teaching 7th and 8th graders Spanish. Today, she's here as a school counselor. She's ready to learn about your children, about your families, and to work with all the A through D families. So be sure to introduce yourself before you go home tonight at the end of our program. What if? So as a department, we are always reflecting and working to make this process less stressful. This will mark my 12th year as a counselor in Berkeley and my 6th at the high school during this college application cycle, so my 6th cycle. And last year we decided to be more mindful of the messages that we send to our students and to our families. Are we helping, or are we adding to the stress and anxiety that we see and that we know exists for so many? If we keep doing the same things over and over again, will change be possible? That's often a larger question, and it's also one that applies here. So in an effort to approach the college application process from a place of possibility instead of dread, we thought we would change the lens through which we look at this process. So I'm going to show you a quick video, 4 minutes, and it speaks to shifting our lens. You got to ignore some of the corny staged acting and some of the references to the British education system, but we feel that the message is important.
Right, everyone looking forward, please. Good morning, Year 11s. Today's assembly is about the start of the journey, the start of the rest of your lives. In 2 years' time, all of you will have been finishing your A-levels. In 3 years' time, you'll be studying across the world, studying at the university of your choice. In 5 years' time, you'll have started your careers. Many of you will be in this room working for the top institutions across the globe. You will then get married. You then may buy a house. In 10 years' time, your life will be set for you. In 15 years, you'll be 30. And from then on, your path in your life will be set.
I'm sorry, Mr. Headmaster. Let me tell you why that approach may fail you. I know people who graduated at 21 and didn't get a job till they were 27. I know people who graduated late at 25 and they found work immediately. I know people who never went to university but found what they love at 18. I know people who found a job straight out of college, making decent money, but hate what they do. I know people who took gap years and found their purpose. I know people who were so sure about what they were going to do at 16 and changed their mind at 26. I know people who have children but are single. And I know people who are married but have had to wait 8 to 10 years to have children. I know people in relationships who love someone else. I know people who love each other but aren't together. So my point is, everything in life happens according to our time, our clock. You may look at some of your friends and think that they're ahead of you, or maybe some of them you feel are behind. But everything happens at their own pace. They have their own time and clock, and so do you. Be patient. At age 25, Mark Cuban was a bartender in Dallas. It took till 32 for J.K. Rowling to be published for Harry Potter after being rejected by 12 publishers. Ortega launched Zara when he was 39. Jack Ma started Alibaba when he was 35. Morgan Freeman got his big break at 52. Steve Carell only got his break after 40 years old. Virgin was started by Richard Branson at 34. Getting your degree after 25 is still an achievement. Not being married at 30 but still happy is beautiful. Starting a family after 35 is still possible. And buying a house after 40 is still great. Don't let anyone rush you with their timelines. Because as Einstein said, not everything that counts can be counted, and not everything that's counted truly counts. And this is the most important thing. I want you to be able to create meaningful, purposeful, fulfilling lives for yourselves, and learn how to use that to make an impact and a difference in the lives of others. That will be true success.
Cue the corny applause, but a couple more thoughts before we start the panel and the information. So if we're going to really change the lens, we must also learn from experiences of others and the expertise of others. I am a huge fan of this book that is on the screen right now. I have read it a couple of times. I have sent it to a number of students in the past, and I really feel like it should be required reading for families before they embark upon this process. We are strongly recommending that you check it out from your library or use that random Amazon gift card. It's filled with example after example about how we are all more than a college admissions decision. Just wanted to plug that. I get nothing for it. Before I turn it over to our panel of experts, I just want to share a brief story with you. So, 2016 class that graduated 2 years ago, there was a student who did everything. And by everything, I mean everything that we tell our children and our students to do along the way in regards to her education. She did all of those things for her own motivation as well. She took rigorous classes. She got all A's in all of them. Her GPA was over a 4.0. She had outstanding standardized test scores, ones that she worked really hard at perfecting. She wrote thoughtful and reflective personal statements. She was perfect, not just on paper, but also in person. She is and was at the time beautiful and kind and thoughtful and empathic, and she is still all of those things. She was a leader in our school, an athlete, committed to community service. She was a doer and an organizer. She just made things happen. Her teachers and her peers, we all held her in very high esteem, and her dream school was the University of Michigan. Sorry, Teresa. She was deferred, and then after she was deferred, she was denied, and that process lasted almost the entirety of her senior year. She did not end up getting accepted. She was devastated. She felt rejected and invalidated and angry, and she watched a lot of her peers celebrate their acceptances, and it was very, very hard. It was really, really hard as a counselor. How do you tell that student that everything is going to be okay? How do you, as a parent, watch your daughter or your son deal with rejection, sometimes for the first time like that, and tell them that everything's going to be okay? And everything is going to be okay. If I have learned nothing else from this job, that it's going to be okay even when it feels like it's not. And I've learned that through the lens of college admissions, but I've also learned that through a more serious lens, supporting families through divorce, through students whose parents get a cancer or terminal illness diagnosis, and unfortunately through the lens of way too many students who've lost a parent during their high school time, expected or suddenly. But even with those students, everything ends up being okay, even if it really feels like that's impossible. So while our goal is to shift the lens, we do have room to explore and be open to many possibilities that colleges have to offer. We also have to do our homework. We have to be informed. We can't make a thoughtful decision about our future without having as much information as possible, which is why we are here tonight. Because despite everything is going to be okay, we do have to learn about things that are out there, expand our mind, and hopefully you'll walk away with some information about one of these schools that you can take with you to others who might even not be here tonight. So thank you to our panel, and I'm going to hand it over to Mrs. Berkley and Mrs. Ty to take it from here.
I feel like we're going to sing karaoke.
I know. No, our first choice or second choice? Again, thank you for being here. So for the structure of tonight with our panel, we're going to ask a series of questions. Some are going to be directed to the whole panel, and some we're going to have specific to certain schools. So we're going to jump into it, if that's okay with you. This is going to be for the whole panel. Does your college have a selective admission policy? Do you have to have a minimum GPA or ACT, SAT score to be admitted? Pepper, we'll start with you from Albion. I'm sorry. Do you need
Put me
a
on the
minute?
spot. No, I'm good.
I'm sorry.
So Albion does not have a minimum GPA test score requirement to be accepted. Like others, I think we use what we call the holistic approach. You're more than just a number, as we tell you. I've seen 2 1s get in. I've seen 3 4s get denied. and everything in between there. So no, there's no specific. It's about you telling us who you are. Maybe you had a bad freshman year. Maybe you had a family issue that hurt your grades. So it's your application is a resume more than just your number.
Thank you.
Our process is also holistic at CMU, and looking at the two largest factors are grade point and test scores, but it's a matter of often finding a balance between the two. Sometimes a test score that's a little bit lower can be offset by a grade point that's higher, and the trending grade was also considered. That poor freshman year that you mentioned can be offset by some strong improvement. I'll take this to the freshman year is the proudest moment. They've shown strong improvement since that time. All the students that started well has been tailing off since that time. So we do take that holistic approach as well.
So, can you hear me? Okay. So actually, Michigan State, again, on our website, if you look at the website, it does say that there are no minimum requirements. However, it is a selective process and it is competitive. So as a student, definitely having strong grades, strong curriculum in terms of what types of classes that you're taking. Senior year, we want to see at least 3 or more academics. So even if you're taking something else, we'd like to see something that you're staying with the academic core classes. Trend is, again, very similar to the other schools. Trend is important. We like to see trends going like this, staying here, but not going like this, or going all over the place, or staying down here. So really, if you're rising or if you're staying in the high area, that's better. If you did have a dip, we always ask students, please explain what happened so that we can take that into consideration. And ours is a holistic process. We do look at their essays as well as additional information that you can give us about what's going on and that has affected your grades and that kind of thing. Looking at GPA and test scores, definitely if a student has higher grades with slightly lower test scores, that's a little bit more workable than a student with extremely low grades and higher test scores. But in general, apply early. That's the one thing we always recommend.
I'm from Schoolcraft Community College, so I represent kind of a different thing in that we're open admission. So we do not have a minimum GPA, we do not have a minimum ACT. We do have an honors program at our school that you need a 3.5 to get into, so we run the whole gamut of the students that are at Schoolcraft. But for all intents and purposes, we are open admission. We will require transcripts and scores because we use them for advising purposes. We want to set students up to be successful, but it's not going to be used for the decision to admit you. If you apply, you will be admitted.
Hello. I guess you already heard about me. Just started off right tonight. So at the University of Michigan, we do a holistic review process as well, where we communicate to students what our middle 50th percentile in terms of test scores look like, as well as what our average GPA on an unweighted 4.0 scale is. And then we look at essays. We tell students, please write thoughtful essays. Please answer the questions on the essays. We look at your extracurricular activities as well as your recommendations from your counselor and an academic teacher. So we look at all of those things in order to determine whether we're going to offer an admission and clearly a denial process. I wasn't there. I wasn't present for that, so just give me a pass. But that is our process. We do early action where students who apply by November 1st will hear something before December 24th. That could be a deferral, and then we continue the process on. And all of us up here are waiting on May 1st, desperately.
The beauty of being last, but not least. Welcome, and thank you guys for coming tonight. I want to say this without going a little further. The counseling staff here at Berkley High School, we all know the hard work that you guys do, so we just want to reiterate that and reiterate that to the parents too. I've been coming to Berkley for well over 10 years now in Oakland County, so it's always a pleasure to come here for this event. But I want to be real brief. Wayne State, much like the other schools, at the beginning we do a holistic approach. There's no set GPA and ACT score. But what I do want to say is when students and parents come up to our tables on college fair and events like that, they often ask, well, what's your average? Once we quote the average, they go, run out the door, I'm in. Well, the average is the average. That's a profile. That's not the actual admission requirement. So I do want to say that. And so we do take that holistic approach. We look at the type of courses you took. Did you challenge yourself perhaps with AP, honors, IB, dual enrollment? All of that looks good to us because it shows rigor. And so we do want to see that. We want to make sure you're going to be successful. The other thing, of course, the trend in your grades, obviously, without beating the, yes, I'll let you say that. But anyway, you don't want to do what the Tigers are doing. You don't want to be going trending backwards. You want to be trending forward. I guess that would be the Red Wings too and the Pistons. But anyway, the Lions are moving forward. But those kind of things, we do want to see rigor, and we want to see and make sure that students are going to be successful. That's the most important thing. And I know at Berkeley, students are successful when they come to Wayne State and these other institutions. They prepare them well, as evident in what you see tonight. A lot of schools don't do this. This is a blessing for you guys to have a panel here. And so that's why we're excited. So.
Thank you. We love you too, Mr. Doyle.
Thank you.
Okay, so this next question, I feel like I should have an acoustic guitar. Okay, sorry. Okay, this next question is going to be for the whole panel again, and some of you hit upon it while answering the first question, but just really briefly, can you please state, does your school have an early admission deadline, and are there other admission deadlines? And we'll start with Trevor again.
I figured you'd go to the other end. Okay.
No, we're picking on Trevor today.
So yeah, we have two different. We have early action, which is a December 1st deadline. We start rolling our decisions out, though, October 1st. We'll start reviewing right about that time. And then we're rolling admission. So you could apply in July. I wouldn't recommend that. The plan is that the class fills up. But so we have two different ways, early action, rolling admission. Early action has a December 1st deadline.
We don't have early action at CMU. It's rolling admission. The only deadline that you should be aware of is there's a preferred scholarship deadline, which is November 15th. So really, hypothetically, if a student applies in mid-September or a student applies in early December, the turnaround time is roughly the same for us, probably between 4 and 5 weeks from the time we receive everything to the time we hear back. And that's pretty much the way the process works throughout the cycle.
So at Michigan State University, we have rolling admissions as well. There might be some changes coming, so I can't really talk about those yet, but generally we, depending on the year, sometimes we do something called early notification, where we give a deadline, and if you get all your stuff in by that time, you'll find out an admissions decision by the specified date. But the priority scholarship deadline is November 1st. So we do rolling admissions, which means we take applications until the university is full. But I always tell parents and students, you want a treat, not a trick. Apply by Halloween so that you can get considered for the most scholarship opportunities, especially if you fall within the higher ranges in our honors college, because there are opportunities that will go away after that November 1st deadline as we start to offer our scholarships. Other than that, apply early. The application opens usually in early August.
Schoolcraft is rolling admissions, so you can apply pretty much, anytime. But no matter where I always say, throw your hat in the ring many places and do it in the fall. And then you kind of wait to see how everything settles down and what presents the best opportunity for you. And that could be, you might have many options, but I think the best thing is in that fall, throw your hat in the rings multiple places. That's kind of the best way to kind of lay your hand out.
So at the University of Michigan, our application becomes available August 1st. We do early action, so every document, essay, recommendation needs to be in by November 1st. If you are interested in our School of Music, Theater, and Dance, their deadline is December 1st. They do not have the February 1st regular decision deadline because students who want to go into School of Music, Theater, and Dance have to upload a performance. Those performances have to be previewed so that auditions can be offered. So early action is November 1st, School of Music, Theater, and Dance is December 1st, and then regular decision is February 1st.
At Wayne State University, the preferred deadline historically has been December 1st. That way students meet all of our scholarship or merit scholarship deadlines. However, there are some programs that are either honors college related or like our Wayne Med Direct program that has a November 1st application deadline, which means that as soon as our application becomes open in August, you want to apply early. However, don't run the first day of class to your counseling office here. Give them some time, so if you can get everything in by mid-October for those early action programs, early decision programs, which is Wayne Med Direct. Now that one is a binding program. It's a direct admit to our medical school from high school. It's very competitive.
Thank you. So this next question is going to be directed at Schoolcraft specifically. Ms. Button, you already kind of mentioned that you're a little bit different than some of the other schools alongside of you. But could you speak about the benefits about choosing a community college?
Well, there's two kind of options at community college. Many of the students that come to us are looking for a career program, which means you leave Schoolcraft and go into the workforce. And some examples would be obviously our culinary is a big program, or nursing, or medical assisting or massage therapy. There's many things. We have a very good criminal justice program and a good police academy, fire academy. All those are career programs. You leave Schoolcraft to go into the workforce. But when I'm talking to high school students, a great majority of students are really thinking to transfer ultimately. They want to pick where they get their degree, and Schoolcraft offers an excellent value. So many students will attend Schoolcraft and transfer and go to finish their degree wherever. Which I think is a really nice opportunity for many students. It's a good way to defer heavy loan and big debt, and I still say when you start at Schoolcraft, you're ultimately you're working on your bachelor's degree. So if your goal is any other school at this table, I say talk to them and make sure you're taking appropriate classes, making good choices, and that you're kind of planning for if that's your goal. So we kind of I think that's what kind of makes it different. And the open admission, some students that struggled maybe a little academically and want to kind of beef up their credentials, Schoolcraft offers a great opportunity to do that. We have some very strong general education opportunities for students that they can start to build, just kind of strengthen their resume a little bit while they're there. Lots of activities, lots going on our campus. This is kind of my point to probably no matter where you're thinking, now is a great time to start planning campus visits and take a look around. You'll see that some provide a better fit for you, and you might be surprised, that something you wouldn't consider initially turns out to be a really good fit for you.
Thank you. Okay, this next question is for Central and Albion. Oh, sure, go right ahead.
I'm going to add a little something. Some of the four-year colleges also have some two-year programs. I think Ferris has some, and Michigan State has some in the agricultural sciences. So if you're a person that is interested in agriculture, there's tons of jobs in state, and we do some two-year programs that have a different admission policy than the admissions criteria that our general four-year degree programs offer.
Great, thank you. Okay, this next question is for Central and Albion. So we get this question quite frequently in the counseling office. As a matter of fact, I think I've answered a couple of them this week already. But should students take the ACT or SAT? Does it matter which one? And Michael, if you want to start.
Sure. In our case, we'll accept either. Just 3 years ago, we made the change from the ACT being administered in the public schools to the SAT. But we still see, for instance, most of the public schools, if I see one test, it's going to be the SAT. But a number of the private schools in the state are still really, by and large, taking the ACT. So we'll accept either. We all have equivalency tables to really tell us 18 is not 50 or 27 is a 1270. Kind of says those numbers, but you kind of get used to the admissions. But yeah, we accept either.
So we're the same way, and piggyback off a lot of the same things. Public schools, we see more SAT because it's administered. In a lot of our privates, ACT. The one thing we will do, though, is if you take SAT and ACT, you take one of each, we will take your best score. So send us both of them. and we will pick whichever one gives you the higher scholarship. We also do something called super scoring. So if you take the SAT 2, 3, we'll stop at 3 because don't take it 4 times unless you want to waste your Saturdays. But we will take your highest section, so your highest math section and then your highest reading and writing from whatever time that happens to be when you took it, and add those together. And we do the same thing with the ACT. There's 4 sections, so that's what we would call super scoring, and a lot of times it'll give a student maybe a little boost. That could be the difference between $20,000 or $22,000 in scholarship, so that would be the one difference. But yeah, either or, we don't hold a preference to which one you have to take. If you take it more than once, send us everything though.
Thank you.
Just a little quick addition.
Yeah.
We don't super score. We'll always just take the high composite score.
Perfect. Thank you. And so staying on the track with ACT and SAT score, this is going to be directed at MSU and U of M. When students take their ACT or SAT more than one time, should they submit all of their scores or just one? Teresa, we'll start with you.
We want it all. We want it all. Echoing what my colleague said, please send us all of your scores. And I tell students, if you can, take both. Some students are going to perform better on one test versus the other. Sometimes you've had a bad Saturday. A friend of mine, her daughter's SAT was the day after a big dance at school, and I went, why did they do that to the poor children? But we will take all of your scores. We will not super score, but we will look at your highest composite.
So Michigan State University, we also do not really loud. We do not super score, nor do we average the test scores. We do take the highest score, whether it's ACT or SAT, and look at that when we're reviewing your application. We do recommend that, did they already take the juniors already take their SATs? We recommend anytime that you're taking the SAT or ACT that you send us a score. And here's a real simple math reason as to why. They give you 4 free scores, right? So 4 free scores. Let's say that each score was $15. That 4 free scores, if you don't send it when you take the test, and you send it later to your 4 favorite schools, is going to be $60. So what is $60? That's 12 Little Caesars pizzas. It might be 15 Starbucks coffees. Might be 60 bags of potato chips. It might be a college application fee. So would you rather spend your money on 4 test scores that you should have gotten for free, or would you rather spend it on other things that are more important to you? So I recommend always make sure you use those 4 free scores. They've given to you for a reason. And most of the universities, we will not automatically deny you based on just a test score. We'll always give you, or usually we'll give you at least another chance to retake those. So, and we do recommend trying to take them at least twice and no later than December of your senior year.
Thank you. Okay, this next question is going to be for Nick and Teresa. You both touched upon looking at grade trends when examining applicants' applications, but can you talk about specifically what are you looking at when you look at a student's transcript?
Sure, I'll start that question. When we're looking at a student's transcript, we're looking at again, as I mentioned before, those type of courses of which you challenge yourself. That's important to our honors college. That's also important to a lot of our START programs. From an admission standpoint, we do look at the cumulative GPA, weighted or unweighted. And we do want to see that trend. Again, the trend in the grades, not all physical ed classes, as we know. Dual enrollment is even popular. I also wear 2 hats. I'm our dual enrollment coordinator. And so that's something that we look at as well. If it's on the transcript, we will give you credit, and you can double dip both high school and college credit at Wayne State. Those sort of things, we're looking at the rigor of the transcript, especially when there's a borderline scenario. But if you have a high test score and a great cumulative GPA, I can tell you, because the number of applications we get, we kind of just say, okay, we're looking at the cumulative GPA.
So for us, we are looking at academic rigor. So when we look at a student, first and foremost, we're looking at the school. So we are looking at you in the context of your high school. So we're not comparing you to any other schools in the state. We are looking at what is offered at your school, because every school does not offer honors courses, every school does not offer AP coursework. So we're looking to see what is available at your high school, and did you push yourself within the curriculum? So again, academic rigor. Did you take the honors courses if they were offered? Did you then push and say, oh, I did really well in the honors, now I'm going to move on to the AP coursework. Oh, I did really well there, I'm going to do dual enrollment. So we're looking to see that you are pushing within the available curriculum, and again, we want to see upward trends. So you can start off freshman year and it can be a little bit rocky, right? We do understand that, but after that, I need the trend to go up and stay there. So those are the kinds of things that we're looking at when we're looking at your transcript.
Can I make one point about midway, I guess, 7th semester or somewhere abouts? All of us around January, after we've stuffed ourselves and made our New Year's resolutions, we often get this very common question about, I'm changing classes. If I change my class, will you take away my admissions? And that's important to note for a school like Wayne State. We won't take away your admissions, but we do expect you to stay within the graduation requirements, both at the high school and the Michigan merit curriculum. If you are kind of going in that direction, that's okay with us. It doesn't matter if you change classes. I'm trying to get to the juniors so they don't call us. No, I'm just kidding. But that's a question that we get common, all of us. You know, I'm changing classes midway, and you guys can kind of touch to what your school will do, but that's important to know.
Don't switch your classes. No, I'm just playing. But it's important that you understand we are also looking at what classes you're taking in the 12th grade. So your transcript says 9, 10, 11, and on the application it's going to tell us, and these are the courses that I'm registered to take as a senior. And so we're looking at those courses to make sure, number one, we need to see you in at least 4 academics senior year. So it's not a time to slack off. So if you email me and say, well, I'm going to switch this for this, you're probably going to get an email back that says why and no, unless it's another academic course. So you want to make sure that you're staying on track based on what was submitted on the application.
Perfect, thank you. And actually, Ms. Fry, you started with our next question. So the next question is in regards to the senior year schedule. This is going to be directed at MSU and Albion. What do you look for in a senior year schedule? Iris, we'll start with you.
So we're looking for making sure that students take at least 3 or more academic classes in senior year. Academics is core curriculum, so math, science, English, social studies, foreign language. American Sign Language is considered a foreign language. We also do consider sociology, psychology, micro or macroeconomics as social science classes. We consider statistics as math classes as well. We do not look at things like debate, speech, yearbook, newspaper, journalism, ROTC, music, art, dance, theater, none of the elective type courses. So you really need to be staying with the core curriculum type courses to have a strong curriculum. If you do not have 3 or more academics, we will render a decision, and this is the decision, that you need to beef up your senior schedule. And kind of tailing back to what they said about changing your schedule in the middle of senior year, we do not recommend doing that. If you are taking an academic class and want to switch for an elective or non-academic, we don't recommend that. Also, if you do plan to take like a co-op or vocational type classes, you need to make sure the other 3 classes remaining in your schedule are in the core academics.
All of the above. So we don't have a set requirement of 3 core classes. We like to see 2 to 3 core classes. The underwater basket weaving, those type of classes, we're not going to hold against a student. If you want to take a PE class, by all means, go ahead. But we don't want to see 2, 3, 4 PE classes on your schedule. The one thing to remember throughout all these questions is you do have to graduate. You have to send us your final transcripts. So at Albion, on the opposite of can I switch a class, those kind of things, if you want to switch a class and you still have anatomy and you still have chemistry, we're okay with that, and you need to switch one. But at the end of the day, you do have to graduate. And again, I think someone mentioned the state requirements and the high school requirements to get that diploma. We can rescind a decision. None of us probably like to do that. We've all probably had to do it once or twice. But if you have questions, check with whatever college you're looking at to make sure. Probably one thing that you just noticed as we went down this panel, every one of us is a tiny bit different, even if we said, hey, let's build off of what he or she just said. So make sure you're doing your homework on these schools. Like I said, we're 2 to 3. Our test scores are different than all these schools. In our GPA, we handle it differently. So make sure you understand what each school is looking for. But obviously, 7th semester is really key as well. A lot of students can help their decision if they're on hold getting in. So it's not the time to get senioritis and just kick your feet up and relax.
Great, thank you. Okay, this next question is going to be directed at Michael and Teresa. Can you please tell us how important are a student's extracurricular activities when you're making an admissions decision? Go ahead, Michael.
In terms of back to the holistic approach, the biggest emphasis by far would be placed on academics and the test scores, standardized test scores. But a lot of students certainly desire in our freshman class, and so although in our case, unlike Teresa at Uva, they have required essays, plural, we don't have a required essay or personal statement, but a number of students, a large portion of our incoming freshman class will provide us with that information, either through personal statement or just a list of activities. And for us, when we look at the nature of our freshman class, they tend to be pretty active. We have a leadership scholarship that's on campus that really places the emphasis on those extracurricular activities. And so it is something that is looked at, but if you look at it in terms of prioritization, it's going to be lower than the academic side, but it's still desired.
Teresa?
Thanks, Michael. So, yes, we have essays, plural. I'm sure that question is going to come up shortly. We do look at extracurriculars. I tell students I am not looking to see that you're involved in 20 different activities where you're just a warm, breathing body. I am looking at you to see that you are actively engaged in the activities, that you are holding leadership roles within those activities. So if you were a part of a group and you started off in 9th grade, that you are gradually getting into leadership roles. And by senior year, you have some type of president, vice president, secretary, treasurer. You have a leadership role within that group. So it's really important to not just get in a bunch of different activities, but making sure that you, is Michigan State doing that to my mic? Okay. Wait a minute. Okay. But make sure that you are leaders and actively engaged and involved in the activities.
Thank you. This next question is going to be directed at Wayne State and Michigan State. What is the biggest mistake you see when reading student application? Nick, do you want to start?
Sure. The essay by far. The essay in a number of ways, when people say those lovely things about your institution and they finish with, I'm glad to be a Spartan, and they're applying to Wayne State. It's a sour taste in our mouth. We're research partners with Michigan State, but we're not the Spartans. And so those kind of things happen with the essay. The other thing, the essay is often written by some teachers. We know that. We have some experts that work at our institutions who work in our education office, in our English office, and journalism. And so we know who's writing it. We know when parents are writing these essays. It's a lot of fun to us. We laugh about it and we bet and all that, but a lot of cool stuff happened. But more or less, the students do put in the hard work. That's the exception rather than the norm. And so we're looking, the mistake is to make sure you're setting things properly to the right place. We've had ACT and SAT scores sent to us, and they say, well, you know, thank you, and they'll talk to our Student Services Center and say, hey, I'm so glad that, when can I visit Grand Valley? And those kind of things. So I know I went around the corner with that answer, but just to make a long story short, just be careful, look at grammatical errors and things like that. We make them too, but just make sure you spell check and those kind of things.
Okay, so yeah, definitely the essays is a part where you can make or break your application sometimes. When we say essay, there's a few things. When we say essay, one year I got an essay that was literally a sentence. A sentence is not an essay.
Really?
So, and at that point when I looked at it, I said, this kid doesn't really want to be at our institution because they didn't take even a few minutes to form a solid essay. The other thing is that when building on some of the things that Nick said, when you're writing your essay, definitely make sure you're proofreading. We've had students tell us, I love to torture students. I torture them after school and sometimes on Saturdays. Well, they meant to say I love to tutor students. So spell check knows it's a verb. Spell check doesn't know that you're intending to tutor them, not torture them. So make sure you're reading through what you're writing. The other thing I see a lot is muscles. Muscles like the clam versus muscles like the ones in your arm. The other thing I do recommend, if you're kind of worried about reading or writing your essay, one recommendation I give to students when I'm talking to them is grab your cell phone, grab your essay question, grab your favorite teacher, your best friend, your parent, have them read the question to you. Talk to them. Boom, there's your essay. Clean it up a little bit, make sure it's grammatically correct. But when you're writing that essay, once you're done writing it, throw your best friend's name into that essay. If that essay describes that best friend, then you're being a little too generic. Try to pull it back, give us some personality, give us some of you. We know when you're trying to suck up to the admissions counselors, so watch how you're writing your essay, and definitely we can tell if it's a parent writing an essay. I had a friend ask me, oh yeah, my son's writing his essay to such and such school. Can you proof it for me? And I said, okay, sure, I'll look at it. And he gave me the first essay, and it was really great. It sounded like a student. The second essay, I was like, did you write this essay? Because it was all formal. Don't use the thesaurus overuse of the thesaurus is not helpful. We want to see a little bit of your personality. Be yourself in your essay.
She's saying that the English courses that you got F's in don't match the essay that you got an A in. So that's what she's saying in short.
Great, thank you. And so kind of piggybacking off of Iris's last point, for those colleges on the panel who require essays and/or letters of recommendation, what words of wisdom do you have to students in tackling those writing prompts and essays? Trevor,
Please,
you want to start?
can I go first?
Oh, sure, go ahead.
Okay. Let me, even though the light is shining, I'm going to dip my head down and look at you students. Ask a teacher who likes you and that you performed well, not just academically, but behaviorally in their class. When you ask for a recommendation, here is the question. Are you comfortable writing a positive, listen to me now, because I got one this year that blew me away, a positive recommendation for me? If they pause, if they hesitate, slowly back out of their classroom and move on. Those recommendations can make or break you. I had one this year that I literally called the school and went, is this teacher okay? Because the recommendation was so harsh. I had never read one like that before. And I went, this child has no clue. This person cannot stand him. But he got an A in the class. And so that's why I say not just academically, but behaviorally, this was a good fit for you. Because he got an A, but he was a jerk, which is what the letter said. So you have to be careful. Please, if there's any hesitation, just slowly back away. Thank you so much for your time, and back away out of that classroom. We require 3 essays at the University of Michigan. Oh my goodness, Miss Teresa, it's 3 essays. Okay, just let it go. You all text more in a day than what we really require you to write. Okay? Now, whether you are putting the entire word in the text, whole other thing. I don't know what y'all are abbreviating these texts. Anyway, so 100 words, 250 words, and 500 words. That's nothing. But read the prompt, answer the prompt. We have an essay that asks you, why do you want to major at this particular institution in this major at the University of Michigan? And how are you going to contribute? I do not want to read about how you've always wanted to be a doctor your entire life. You're going to make a great surgeon, blah, blah, and blah. I want to know why you want to be at the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, why you want to major in biology, chemistry, or whatever the major is, right? Or if it's engineering, whatever it is. Tell me why at Michigan. Please don't tell me what they're doing at Michigan State. I get a lot of those, and I cannot wait to be a Spartan. I will help you be one. Here you go.
Wow.
Okay? So we're happy to share. You can go right on down the road. But just be careful and make sure that you are asking seriously. I'm telling students that moving forward after I read that recommendation this year, a positive recommendation. And you know how you behaved in that class. Your parents might not know, but you know what you did.
So I think at Albion, ours is a little bit different. We do require an essay and a recommendation, but it doesn't have to come from someone, the recommendation doesn't have to come from someone at your school. It can be a past boss, it can be a coach, it can be a pastor, priest, youth group leader, someone that, what I always say is someone that knows you on a personal level. When we get recommendations, if you go to your math teacher and you did really well in that class, as she was kind of saying, you may not have that opposite effect in terms of your attitude. I think another key one, and I speak a lot of times with Mrs. Weiss, get to know your counselors. Get to know them. I have had, I think, 4 or 5 students in my 4 years at Albion that probably should not have gotten into Albion, and Mrs. Weiss picked up the phone, and she didn't really have to beg or plead, but she gave me a different side of that student that I could have never found out if they didn't spend a lot of time in her office. If they didn't go say, hey, I need help with this, or can you call Albion for me? These are your best resources sitting in this room right now, and they can vouch for you in a lot of ways that it is tough for us to find out about, because we haven't been with you for 2, 3 years, 1 year, whatever it happens to be. So make sure you really get to know these counselors. Our essay is right as part of the Common App, so we only have 1 essay. For you juniors, the Common App has already said the prompts are staying the same, right? So juniors, if the schools that you might be applying to are Common App, go take a peek at that. You can start those now and have people start proofreading and kind of get that going. So yeah, we require both, and that's kind of a roundabout.
So our next question is kind of, Mike Doyle, you already kind of touched upon that rocky start that some of our lovely students have, whose maybe GPA or ACT score falls a little short than maybe your averages. What would you tell them if they really want to attend your school? Nick, do you want to?
Sure, I'll begin
kind
that.
of already segued into it?
Like most schools, well, I shouldn't say that. I'll say many colleges in the United States have alternative admit programs. They also have another option to get in. We have the 7th semester or first half of senior year we can hold for a decision for updated test scores and test results. Also updated or cumulative GPA. For example, if a student is denied in the fall semester, it is possible for them to be admitted by the end of the winter with new credentials. And so those are some of the things students can do. I think I missed the second part of that question. It was like, oh, wasn't it like a 2-part question?
It was a long question.
Okay.
Really, just if students really want to attend your school, is there something that they should do if
I
they do
see.
fall a little short?
I see. Like what was mentioned earlier, your counselor is your best advocate in many respects. Many of us are here because we've been at Berkley or some connection for a number of years. We know that you do well when you're given the proper support. So it's always okay to have them lean on us, to see what we can do. And we don't just shut the door. When you have rolling admissions, there's still an opportunity for students to still gain admissions to our institution. So utilize the resources, in other words, your counselors and other contacts.
Anyone want to add anything to that?
I think it's a nice opportunity from my perspective to utilize that topic as part of the essay, a personal statement to describe what may have happened. And sometimes it can be just a slow start, not your proudest moment, but sometimes it could be something that happened personally. And addressing that with a personal statement can be really helpful, helps to shed some light.
I should say this too. We've seen also students with disabilities and they don't tell anyone. And if a student has a disability, that's okay to let us know. We cannot, by law, discriminate any student who has a disability. That's against the law. So if you let us know, we can provide the proper support. And so that happens too.
Thank you. Okay, this is our final question, and I wanted to start this with Julie because she touched upon it earlier. But what advice do you have for students on determining which college is the best fit for them?
Well, I'll give the advice I gave to my own children, and that was throw your hat in the ring everywhere you're considering early in the game, including your dream school and maybe some sure bets, and you might be surprised a community college might be a good fit for you to start out. So I say throw your hats in the ring early and absolutely visit campus. You'll find when you get your feet on a campus that you'll hopefully talk to students and have a sense of kind of what drives the students there and whether you'd be comfortable and a good fit. And so many of you know someone who went to a school and thought, this is it, this will be my dream school, and when they got there, it wasn't a good fit. So I think visiting campus is one way to kind of maybe alleviate some of those questions. And I also think those surveys within your counseling office and having conversations and really anything you can do in the next year or so to kind of flush out how do you share your gifts that you have with the greater world. And sometimes that means going to a school that offers a particular program. So if they offer what would be the best catalyst for you to get out and kind of make your mark on the world, that's going to be a good choice for you too.
Thank you. Does anyone else have anything they want to add before we get to the audience questions on advice they'd give to students and families?
Real quick, I always say 3 things. Make sure the institution, and you guys have heard this before, has the major that you want. Not to something like that, because you go to that institution, you're going to get something like that degree. I've been saying that for years. Second, make sure it makes economic sense to both you and your parents, that it's affordable. And lastly, make sure that there's a distinct comfort level. In other words, when you go to visit, and that you feel like these people really have my best interests at heart. All of us would like to have you at our institutions. Let's not, mix words up here, but the most important thing is it's got to be right for you. It can't be right for your parent. It can't be right for your boyfriend or girlfriend or whomever. It has to be right for you. I always say those 3 things.
And make sure they have your second and third and fourth choice of major. What we know is that you may start off, okay, I did it, so nobody else wants to confess on the panel. You start off thinking, this is the thing, I'm gonna do this thing. And you start and go, I don't wanna do that thing anymore. So make sure that it's not just your first choice in terms of major, but the backup to the backup to the backup plan. Because you don't want to go somewhere because it had that one major, and after the first year, that's not what you're interested in anymore, and you dived into those courses, and that's not a good fit for you. So make sure you're looking at what the other options may be as well.
So at Michigan State University, I don't know why this is not working. At Michigan State University, I always, when I'm talking to students, definitely checking out what majors are offered. If you come to me and want to be a dentist, I'll point you to the University of Michigan because they have it and we don't. If you want to be a vet, she'll point to us. So, you know, you want to be, you know, a mortician, go to Wayne State. So there's like
Wait a minute. There's over 350 programs there now.
It's a good program.
Yeah, we pioneered mortuary science, that's for sure.
Anyway, by the way, those career testing things are really interesting. Take a look at those career test preps that you do in high school. One of the things that actually my career testing said I would have been good at was being a mortician, by the way, mortuary science. Definitely go into college with an open mind. I started off as a pre-med and biology major. In the middle of my junior year, I switched to studio art. I was much happier and actually thought about ways I could combine, but at that time, they didn't have the resource where now you can just click with 3 clicks and combine all the things that you have interest in, and then you can actually see a little bubble that shows you, oh, this thing on our campus, these different majors might come in. So it's absolutely okay to come into your college experience undecided. But visiting campus is key, and I recommend that if you do visit campus, don't just go on the tour. Maybe stop in the snack shop and talk to a random student. Maybe peek your head in a residence hall and say, hey, can I check out your room? When you talk to those students, parents and students alike, you'll kind of get the vibe. You'll kind of see what the real part of that campus community is like. A lot of times you go to campus, they're gonna bring out the brightest. They're gonna show you the shiniest, best parts of campus. They're not gonna take you to the back alley where it looks all crummy. They're taking you to the best facilities. So take a moment and do a little exploration on your own. Don't take it from just your friends. The other thing I recommend is don't go to the school because your boyfriend or girlfriend is going there. That is one thing that's probably right now you think, oh, I'm gonna be with this person the whole life. Guess what? You're gonna go, if you come to Michigan State, all of a sudden there's like 25,000 other people that you might be your future mate. So, you know, when you're going to college, you're gonna suddenly realize there's a lot of different people out there. There's a lot of different opportunities and things to do on those campuses. If you want to get involved with things to do, take a look around and see what facilities, do they cost more to do this kind of stuff? You know, some of the clubs and things, cost is a factor, location is a factor, the size of the campus, and also academic resources. We offer different tutoring resources and they're free to our students. So take a look and see if those resources are available to you. And then keep an open mind when you're visiting that campus. Because sometimes you think that your second or third choice isn't going to be the place you land, but when you land there, it all of a sudden feels like home.
All right, so before we open it to specific questions for you, I'm going to just flip-flop the last 2 slides. First of all, that was my fault. Our panel is composed of colleges from different areas of our state, small, large, private, public, rolling, admissions, more highly selective. Like there was intention behind who we invited here because we hope that it sparks some things. We also know that the panel spoke about some of those smaller details, early action, rolling admissions, Common App. Some of that language should at this point be confusing if this is your first time through it. We haven't gotten to the nuts and bolts and specifics of what the application process will be like. So the counseling department, while this is our kickoff to get you thinking, Coming next will be lots of more detailed support when you are thinking about next steps. So on Monday of next week, yes, Monday, financial aid, scholarship information, paying for college night geared to your class. And then moving from there, some of the more specific research about majors and campuses and other colleges besides who's on our panel, the counselors will be in front of all of the juniors on May 29th in front of a computer in a computer lab, and we'll start exploring some of those smaller details. College essays came up immensely on this panel. We have a wealth of college experts, college writing experts, and one of them is going to be here to do a short series at lunchtime, May 30th and June 5th. So the first will be more of a discussion about how do you decide what to write about, using whatever prompts that we have available, because we all know what the prompts are going to be. And then she'll be back on June 5th if you want her to take a look over one of your first drafts. And then new over the summer, in August, we are going to have a Common App or College App Boot Camp so that you can sit down when the applications are live, beginning of August. We're going to do it twice, so that you'll have an opportunity to come and sit with us as counselors to navigate some of those smaller details that are stressing you out. And then you can't see it on the slide, but we have a wealth of resources on our website currently, articles to read, things like that, if you want to click and check us out. And then you always can call us as well. So we're going to open it for about 10 or so minutes for specific answers in the audience. So raise your hand, and one of us will come around with a microphone. And we want to honor everybody's time, so we'll be mindful of that.
Just raise your hand, and we can run down to you. Oh, yeah.
Do you recommend for the tours that they go, like take a day off of school and do it now before the kids are off campus, or wait for the summer and do it when it's quieter, when they're really offering them and the kids are out of school?
I can answer that for, at least for Michigan State. Michigan State, our tours are only on Mondays through Fridays, Saturdays on non-football weekends, and only when the students are actually on campus. So you're not going to be able to, after April 30th, our next batch of tours won't start till June, because the students are in between semester breaks. The other thing is that we have something called Green and White Days, where you can come up in the end of July, early August. And then there's also the Green Carpet Days. So for those of you who are kind of, we can see from your test scores and whatnot that you're possibly going to be in our honors college range. We have Green Carpet Days that are targeted towards our honors college students. So definitely taking that time to come when students are on campus is very valuable. We also offer programs for students who are already admitted to the university.
I think a little more general too is you're going to get two different subsets. They don't have tours, campus visits while students aren't there. We do offer them all summer. I don't know if any other schools do, but at the discovery phase, kind of you juniors are just discovering what's out there. It may not hurt to check something out in the summer. You'll see the buildings, you'll see what campus looks like, and if it stays on your list, come back in your senior year. When the students are on campus, maybe it's one of the visit programs, maybe it's to sit in on a class, but early on in that process, if someone does offer a summer, I don't think it's bad to go in the summer, because you get to see the structures, you get to see maybe a little bit of what town might look like or things like that. So I wouldn't say it's a negative to visit in the summer, but it's definitely a different feel for sure.
That's a good point. I think keeping in mind that in a perfect world, if you're there during the week, there's nothing promotional about a Wednesday afternoon on a college campus. You really get a chance to see the students. I still find it invigorating to see, in our case, 20,000 students at class change and going out in different directions, and you really see campus the way it is at that point. But we realize, and that's why most of us have some Saturday programs available, because not everyone can make it during the week. In our case, summers, there are some opportunities. It is a different animal in the summer, and much quieter, although most of us have summer classes. It's just a different altogether. But we have a series of summer programs in July on consecutive Fridays that focus on specific academic areas. So for instance, if a student has interest in the health fields like athletic training, sports med for us, on July 27th, they'll have that particular program. On July 20th, for students who are interested in communication arts or music, they'll have a program specific for them. So it depends. Each of us kind of handles things differently, but perfect world, at some point, it's great to get on campus when class is in session.
Great, thank you. And if you call the attendance line, we excuse your absence. Okay, another question?
Oh, okay. Robin, over there. Okay, so my question is what you said in the beginning about the young woman a couple years ago with the 4-point plus, probably the 30 minimum to get into Michigan, all their extracurriculars, good essay, all around, you know, nothing obvious.
Right.
For you, what is the rhyme or reason? I would get that there's two piles or a pile where you are like, okay, they're under 30, they go. But for the kid who is in honors classes, who is getting 30 or above, Michigan resident, well-written essays, involved in everything, you know, what is the factor? Like, did you ever find out why that child didn't get in?
It wasn't meant to be. She's happy where she is now. And before Teresa answers, I do want to say that we have lots of happy Wolverines every year, and we have people that find this process not so terribly stressful. There is outliers. There are always outliers, and I shared that because sometimes there isn't an answer specifically. So. Teresa?
I wasn't there. No, I'm joking.
And she was not the reader.
Not in this current role. No, but really, I say the same thing to students, and I'm saying it a lot right now. Things are going to work out the way that they are supposed to work out. I had all these dream schools in my head as well, and I wanted to go here and I wanted to go there, and it wasn't really the right place for me to be, and I ended up in the right place. So all of the things that we tell you to do, we tell you to push within the curriculum, we tell you to write great essays, we tell you to be involved, we tell you to get great letters of recommendation. All of those things can be there, and you still don't get admitted. It could be a matter of space. We only have X number of seats every year for an incoming freshman class. So for example, this year we got over 65,000 applications for less than 7,000 seats. So there are lots, tens of thousands of wonderful students who applied, who, again, if we were gonna put them all up here and say everybody would take them, right? We only have so many seats, and sometimes it literally is just about space. Not anything wrong with the student, and so I tell students all the time, do not go into this process taking things personally. That if you get a denial, it is not personal. It is not about you per se. Unfortunately in life, I have a lot of denial letters from jobs that I thought I wanted. I keep them, right? Because guess what? I ended up where I was supposed to be. Because later on you find out some other things about some other places, right? You'll find out when you get grown. But it just could be, I have a lot of students right now who are waitlisted. How is it that I didn't get in? Read your waitlist letter. It very clearly says, we just don't have the space to accommodate you at this point. And I tell students, if you get denied or you get waitlisted and you can't come in as a freshman, that doesn't mean you can't come in as a sophomore. That doesn't mean you can't come in as a junior. The numbers look dramatically different for transfer students. So it's not an all or nothing game. And the student is happy where she is, right? So it worked out the way that it's supposed to. But there are instances where everything looks great, but it just doesn't work out in terms of numbers.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I was just wondering for the juniors that just took the SAT when they will know what they got on that. And then for the panel, is there some kind of number reference on your websites or something to kind of know how you're hanging? I know some of you say that's not as important as others, but for the ones where it does matter a little more.
So the question is, one, test scores, and then two, where you can find information on median GPA, ACT, SAT scores? Okay. So SAT scores, they usually come out what, like in July? Is that
4 to 6
not
weeks.
for like for the March ones?
4
April
to
ones?
6 weeks.
Yeah. May. Okay. May. And then if any of the panelists want to tackle where on your website do you post like median GPA, ACT, SAT scores?
I will say this, what a lot of institutions have done, and we're no different than the others around the country, a lot of us don't post that necessarily. We might just say we look at every student individually. However, when you contact us or your counselors here, you got some great resources. Again, they'll know from their past what type of students have gotten into U of M, Schoolcraft, and the like down the road. But I will tell you that we'll gladly tell you the average. So that's not a problem. It's just that sometimes you don't see it on the website.
Ours is posted on our website. Also, we have materials on the table inside our poster, so we don't have current data as we're still shaping this class. But for last year's incoming class, the fall of 2017 students, the average GPA was a 3.87 on an unweighted scale. The average SAT score was a 1350 to 1510, and ACT was a 31 to 34.
So for Michigan State University, by the way, if you pick up a poster, I apologize. I've been in Ohio all week and drove up from Cincinnati this morning. So the posters only list the out-of-state tuition. So if you look at that number, don't freak out. That's for out-of-state. But the middle 50 percentile of our students coming in come with like a 3.5 to 3.9 GPA, 24 to 29 ACT, and about 1150 to 1270 SAT, I think is on our poster. Anyway, the students, no, that's not right, 1350 SAT. So the students who are above that range tend to be honors college eligible, and we do take a good look at the SAT and ACT like we mentioned earlier. And it's critical to get those test scores in earlier than later, because when we look at our applications, we won't review them until everything is there.
Okay.
Claire.
Hi. So I have a friend who is graduating this year who applied to college, got her scholarship money, whatever it was, and was thinking about taking a gap year. And if she were to do that, her scholarship money would not be given to her the following fall. So I guess I was just wondering, like, if that's like a common thing, or like what the specific policy was for like different schools.
That's a great question.
That is a good question.
And we're getting that a lot more often. Long as, for us, I can speak for Wayne State, so long as you let us know that you're going to take a gap year, that's appropriate. Be mindful, a lot of times, a lot of students take classes at a college while they're taking that gap year. That might be the cardinal sin. You might lose your freshman scholarship. And I can't speak for the other institutions. You have to let us know. That's one rule of thought. We will be honest with you. You're then seen as a transfer student if you take classes after graduation. So you could forego your freshman scholarship. So really good full ride. We've seen that happen. I really hate it. Some students, they say, oh, parents want students to take classes in the summer. Be very careful about doing that your senior year, because you could lose a really good scholarship.
I think the key to that is call whoever that happens to be, because we
Ask a
probably
human.
all, yeah, ask away. We would probably all go down the list and have a little bit different answer for you. If you're into your school, that's where you want to be. A lot of times merit scholarship will stay. Need-based aid could change from year to year, depending on the family situation. That's a whole nother discussion next week. But I think the biggest key would be to call that school and just say, hey, what's your policy on this before you decide to defer and take that gap year.
Thank you guys all for coming. It really means a lot to us when people come out to these events. Have a good night.